This is the plaintiff, Frederick Herbert. He says he dated and lived with the defendant, and when he came home one day, the defendant was gone. So was all his valuable stuff. He's not about to let the defendant get away with stealing from him, and is suing today in this court for the $7,800 he's owed. This is the defendant, Marcus Green. He says the plaintiff cheated on him and was arrested for something, so he decided to leave him while he was in jail. He stole nothing from the plaintiff and isn't responsible for the apartment being ransacked by someone once he moved out. He's accused of letting a lover down.
All parties, please raise your right hands. People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Leon is now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Mr. Herbert, you're suing your former boyfriend of 4 years ago? Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
You're 4.5 years ago, for stealing a bunch of your stuff. Tell me how this came about. 2016, you dated, how long did you date?
We dated for, I think in total it was like 8 months maybe.
Okay, and then what happened?
So I had went out and I got arrested for some old warrants that I had.
What were the warrants for?
For failure to appear or something like that. Yeah,
failure to appear for what charge?
Driving without a license, something like that.
Any felonies?
Do I have a felony? I have a felony. Yeah.
Yeah, but was the warrant for a felony, or you have different felonies?
No.
Okay. And
no.
All right. And how many times have you been? This is a relevant question whenever anyone testifies. Can you just tell me how many times have you been convicted of a felony?
Just once.
Okay. Now talk to me about what happened. You end up going to jail for failure to appear on the traffic stuff, and you're in jail for how long? Well, it's traffic criminal, but you're in jail for how long?
2 weeks.
And what happens when you get out of jail?
I got out of jail. I went home, and the house was completely torn apart. The electricity was off, and Marcus was nowhere to be found.
So when you got out, did you call him? Did you talk to him? Did you find out what was going on?
I tried calling him. I couldn't get in touch with him. I couldn't get in touch with him whatsoever at all.
Did you ever speak to him again?
I did, much later on. And he
much later?
He told me that I think it was like maybe a week or so after I got out. Mm-hmm. That he finally picked up the phone, and he just told me that he had left, and so I asked him where my truck was at, where my stuff was at. He told me he didn't have any of it, but I knew that was a lie.
Okay, did you call the police?
I did.
All right, and did you file a police report?
I did, for a stolen vehicle.
What about all this other stuff you're talking about? Because your lawsuit isn't even for the vehicle. Your lawsuit is for almost $8,000, almost exactly the statutory max, $7,800, and your statutory max is $8,000 for different stuff. $1,000 in Wii games, $700 in a Tiffany necklace, an iPad for $700, a Samsung phone for $700, an Arcos tablet for $700, an HP laptop for $400, a Canon camera. All these things. You didn't tell the police that he stole these things?
No, I did. I did tell them, but they did not. They did not incorporate that into the report at that time. I don't know why, but they just. I don't know why.
Usually it's because you didn't tell them all those things.
No. When I reported the car stolen, I told them that my boyfriend Marcus had stolen my vehicle, and he had also stolen my things out of my house, and they just. For some reason, the officer just decided to.
When did you call the police? Right when it happened, or?
Yeah, as soon as I got home. I think that
When did you get home?
I got home the 14th. No. I'm sorry, the 24th, the 29th.
Okay. Well, the police report I'm looking at shows that you contacted the police 2 days later on the 31st. Let me hear from you, sir. What happened here, Mr. Green? According to him, he ends up getting arrested, he's in custody, and you leave and wipe him out. Let me hear your response.
Because he did not get arrested just for no charges. He got arrested for selling narcotics at the time. That's one. And two, I didn't take any of his belongings. When I left the apartment after he got arrested, I took my 2 bags of clothing, and that's it. And I left his keys in the mailbox, told his friends where were they at because he was in the jail at the time, so I couldn't tell him where his keys were.
Why were you leaving him?
Because I found out some things while he was incarcerated. I went through his laptop, went through his phone. He was sleeping around on me, having sex parties, actually recording it, actually having pictures of it, and I just couldn't take it, so I just packed up my stuff and left.
Did you ever tell him, hey, I went through your stuff and I found all the evidence of you cheating on me?
I did.
Oh, you left that part out, Mr. Herbert. All right.
He didn't tell me that.
Did you take his truck?
I did not. I didn't take nothing of his.
Where'd you go, by the way, Mr. Green, when you left? This was in Philadelphia. Where'd you go?
I went back home to Charleston, South Carolina.
And unfortunately for you, so was his car. When did you find out that your car was in South Carolina?
I found out that it was in South Carolina. It had to be
2018?
2018.
Yeah, like
Yes.
a couple of years later. You find out that the car. So how did the car get to South Carolina, Mr. Green? If you did, is it a car or a truck?
It's a truck.
How did his truck end up in South Carolina if you're not the one who took it?
Your Honor, when I left, just because I came to South Carolina doesn't mean that I stayed in South Carolina. When I left him, I left the keys.
Of all the gin joints in all the places in the world, it ends up in South Carolina, the state where you go to. Isn't that something? Isn't that something?
I left his
Sounds
keys.
like he's not the
I left
only
his
liar.
keys and
Sounds like
truck
maybe
keys.
you're a liar.
No, ma'am, I'm not.
Mr. Herbert, let me ask you a question. Why is it 2021 when you're finally going to court? Because this is stuff you're complaining about that happened in 2016.
Yes. Because honestly, I wrestled with taking him to court. Like I didn't really want to take him to court.
For 5 years? You wrestled for 5 years?
Oh, yeah, basically, yeah. And you know, every time an issue came up where I needed my vehicle, I thought about him and the situation. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it because it's not right, first of all, because everything that he took from me was stuff that, like, I had, like, it was presents people gave to me. It was like personal stuff, like, that had nothing to do with him whatsoever.
Do you even have receipts for anything that you're saying he took from you? Just curious.
I don't have receipts for anything because it was all like personal stuff and gifts that people had given me. So I just got
and Mr.
pictures
Green,
of,
what were you about to say?
Your Honor, I just want to know, can a drug dealer actually sue you without no receipts? Like, I'm trying to understand how he's even trying to sue me for things that I didn't even know he had in the apartment.
Excuse me, because I got a question for you. I think it's the video of him cheating on you that made you leave him. You were fine with the drug dealing part, apparently, because your reason for leaving him is that you caught him red-handed. So, yeah, anybody can sue you if you steal from them, okay? But
Which I
here's
did
the
not.
thing. You got, well, let me tell you something, Mr. Green. I don't know about that. I know you probably didn't steal a Tiffany necklace, an iPad, or this or that, all the stuff that he's saying now, because he didn't even mention it to the police back then. But I'm also a little suspicious that his truck ends up being found 2 years later in South Carolina. So just in case either of you think that I just fell off a turnip truck, I didn't. Okay? So no one's telling me the truth here. In the law, there is a concept called the statute of limitations. Let me explain to you. You know it already. Mm-hmm. A statute of limitations is a deadline that we give people for when they can file a case. And each offense, whether it's criminal or civil, has like a certain amount of time, depending on your state, how long you have. Mm-hmm. You have 2 years in your state to file the theft of stuff. And it is almost 6 years later. So you are at a gas from the starting gate on whether or not you can file this. You are now 6 years beyond the theft, and what you had was 2 years. So my verdict in this case is for the defendant.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You lucky. You are so lucky.
So, Judge Millian did not find for the plaintiff in this case. The defendant prevails. Mr. Green, how do you feel about the outcome? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking justice was on my side this time, and, because, waited this long for obviously something that I did not do. A blind man could see, so.
All right. Well, listen, that's the way it worked out. I gather you two have not, it's over between the two of you, right? As far as you're concerned?
That's correct. That's definitely correct.
Okay. Mr. Herbert, you filed the lawsuit, but it didn't work out. What are you thinking, right? And you waited so long to file.
Yeah, that was my fault. But other than it taking too long, or me taking too long, he absolutely did steal my stuff. I can prove it. So he knows what he did. I know what he did, regardless.
That's the way it goes. All right, let's see what the judges have to say about this. Let's join them now for another edition of After the Verdict.
When somebody goes to a courthouse, files a lawsuit, and tries to obtain money or damages from someone, we expect them to act with diligence, with reasonable diligence, to get over there and assert your claim. And there are serious consequences when they don't. You ruled on this case based on the statute of limitations. In this case, it was 2 years. People's memories fade, evidence disappears, evidence gets lost. Things just get destroyed.
Right. It's unfair. So everything has a time limit.
Well, sometimes maybe lawsuits are more intended to inflict cruelty or pain than to obtain damages.
I'm just wondering why this far off, because we never really heard a reason why this far off.
And it sounds like they were Splitsville a long time ago. This relationship was gone and dead, my God, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
So Tandy wants to know this. Hey, Harvey, does my neighbor have the right to park his car on the street directly in front of my house? Isn't the front of my house considered my property? Nope. It is not. It is public property. And if it's a lawful place to park, you're out of luck. Now, if there are time limits on how long the car can be parked and they exceed the time limits, you want to call the police or whatever, you can do that. But if the parking area says you can park there, tough.